Let's take a look at the Verlede Tyd rules. Verlede Tyd is past tense. This will get tested all the way until matric. A lot of these rules come up in different topics. If you're doing the IEB syllabus, you would need to know these rules for all different types of sinstrukturen, which is sentence structures. Okay, so Verlede Tyd, I teach 9 rules. Your teacher might be different, but I do 9 rules just to make it easier to remember. So the first one is the first rule that we always learn for Verlede Tyd. It's the het and ge rule. So rule number 1, if there's just a regular verb, we use het straight after whatever you start the sentence with, so the subject or time, whatever it is, and remember that can be more than one word, it could be a few words. Whatever you start with, the verb comes next. Het and is are verbs. So what we would do is we replace the verb at the beginning of the sentence with a het, and we move our verb to the end with a ge. So examples of this would be ek praat met my maats, ek het met my maats gepraat. Notice how we put the het in the place where the praat was before. Gister is a time word, so if we had to start with our time, we'd say gister het ek met my maats gepraat. And then just a little tip, when you never put the subject next to an adverb of time. So if you said gister, you wouldn't say gister ek het. Say whatever we start with, the verb comes next. So gister het ek met my maats gepraat. The verb always comes next, regardless of what we start with. Okay, rule number 2, if the verb begins with the following 12 syllables, we add het, and we still move the verb to the end, but we do not add a ge. Okay, this is for studying. You have to study these. Most people just learn be, ge, her, ver, und, mis, but it also applies if the first syllable of the word is weer, vol, onder, word, or word. I did include a few example words for us. Words like begin would be ek het begin, ek het gesels, ek het herken, ek het erken, ek ervaar. These words would get moved to the end, but we don't add a ge. Okay, so we cannot say ek het met my ma gesels, okay, because it sounds ridiculous. So definitely study be, ge, her, ver, und, mis, and weer, vol, onder, voor, oor. Okay, some examples of this. Ek gesels met my maats, ek het met my maats gesels, gister het ek met my maats gesels. Rule number 3, if there's a helping verb, so an auxiliary verb, a hulpwerkwoord, only the first verb changes and nothing else. Okay, so is becomes was, wil becomes wou, sal becomes so, moet becomes moes, kan becomes kon. An example of this would be ek moet die bal skop, that's present, and past would be ek moes die bal skop. And then verlede jaar moes ek die bal skop. Okay, we can do another one. We can do a sal example. Ek sal die bal skop, ek sou die bal skop. Verlede jaar sou ek die bal skop. Rule number 4, if the verb has a het at the beginning of the sentence, but there's no ge or verb at the end of the sentence, it means you have something. So het has 2 meanings. It either means something did happen, het, or it means you have something. So in present tense, a het would mean you have something. Okay, so you only add gehad at the end of the sentence. Ek het baie boeke, ek het baie boeke gehad. Ek het 'n mooi rok, ek het 'n mooi rok gehad. Okay, and then for instance, if there was an infinitive, you'd slap it to the end, you'd move it to the end after the gehad. An easy way to spot, there's a het in the beginning of the sentence or the second thing, but there's no verb at the end. Okay, rule number 5, if there are 2 verbs connected by the word in and happening at the same time, so they have to be able to happen at the same time, we add a het, and we only the first verb gets a ge. So both move to the end, but only the first one gets a ge. Think of it as they are friends, and because they can happen at the same time, they can share a ge. Okay, ek sit en lees, ek het gesit en lees. See, only the first one gets a ge. And then don't confuse this rule with the following one. Rule number 6, if we have 2 verbs connected by the word en, and they cannot happen at the same time, we add a het, and both verbs move to the end, and they each have their own ge. Okay, we can think of it this way. If they are not happening at the same time, they are not friends, and therefore they cannot share a ga because they're not friends. Ons werk en swem. Ons het gewerk en geswem. So you can't work and swim at the same time. Okay, we cannot slaap en werk at the same time. Ek slaap en werk in die sitkamer. Ek het in die sitkamer geslaap en gewerk. I'm trying to think if there's a tip I can give you guys for this. So they should give you obvious ones that are obvious to like see if you can or cannot do the verbs at the same time. Okay, generally with this rule I notice a lot of people don't know it. If there are two verbs with no N in between them, they're not separated by the word N. And verb 1, so the first one is one of the following. Gaan, laat, begin, voel, hoor, sien, durf of probeer. Both verbs move to the end and neither one gets a ga. So ek hoor my ma skree, ek het my ma hoor skree. Ons begin eet, ons het begin eet. If it's the only verb in the sentence, then you can move it to the end with a ga. Okay, rule number 8, skeibare werkwoorde. Skeibare means you can't separate it. So this is verbs that can be separated. So generally it would be a verb and a preposition, but not always. So I will attach a list to download to make this easier. They become one word. The ge still goes before the verb, okay? So it's preposition plus ge plus verb. So ek gooi die papier weg, ek het die papier weggegooi. Okay, you see how the ge is still before the verb. Verlede week het ek die papier weggegooi. Ek trek my skoene uit, ek het my skoene uitgetrek. Gisteraand het ek my skoene uitgetrek. Okay, rule number, these are actually examples of skeibare werkwoorde. So in present tense, we would see trek, and then there would be words in between, and on, the preposition would be towards the end of the sentence. Bou, op. Okay, so in future tense, they become one word, and in past, they become one word with the ge before the verb. So trek, so for instance, ek trek my skoene aan, ek sal my skoene aantrek, ek het my skoene aangetrek. Or we can do ek maak die deur toe at the bottom here. Ek sal die deur toe maak, ek het die deur toe gemaak. Okay? This is, I'm not going to go through the whole list because I will be attaching a list of skeibare werkwoorde and some less common ones that are less obvious for you to self-study. Here's some more examples. Ek neem aan 'n sport deel. Ek sal aan sport deelneem, one word. Ek het aan sport deel geneem. Or ek tel my skoene op. Ek sal my skoene optel. Ek het my skoene opgetel. Okay, those are called skeibare werkwoorde. I would suggest studying the list that I will attach. Okay, verlede tyd rule number 9. So I teach this as wand. Some people teach it as dawn. I prefer wand because then I know the first two are group 3 conjunctions and the second two are group 2 conjunctions. So wand stands for wanneer, and that's a group 3 conjunction. As, group 3 conjunction. No, group 2 conjunction. And dan, group 2 conjunction. All 4 of these words change to 2 in the verlede tyd, so in the past tense. They apply either rule 2 or rule 3 conjunction rules, okay? So in terms of where the verb would be moved. We have inserted the group rule to follow next to the word in the heading. Okay, so an example of this, ek swem nou, ek het toe geswem, because no changes to 2. Gister het ek toe geswem. Okay, ek staan op en dan was ek my gesig. Ek het opgestaan en toe was ek my gesig. Okay, or you could say ek het opgestaan en toe het ek my gesig gewas. It's up to you. Okay, so that's the one.